Welcome, friend, to Open GFS.
Hey friends, welcome back to lesson number 2 of Poetry Workshop here on Open GFS. You should have already watched lesson number 1, Everything is a Poem, and done some of your own writing before starting this lesson. If you're doing this on the same day, gosh, you have a lot of energy. My recommendation is to pace these lessons out over a couple days of a week and maybe even across 2 weeks. So let's jump right in. Last time, you remember, we were putting on our poet's eyes, maybe wearing some glasses, right? And I want to tell you, friends, that as we get into this work together, you are changed forever. No, seriously, I mean it. Especially if you haven't necessarily considered yourself a poet before. Maybe you've never written many poems. Something really changes about you. When you are a poet yourself, you read poetry differently because as you read the poems that other poets have written, it's like you are seeing their work and it may inspire you and your own work because you'll think like, what did they do? How did they do it? What effect does it have on me as a reader? And you can take inspiration of that as you do your own work. Some questions you can ask yourself as you're reading poems by other poets is, for example, as I read this writing, can I make a picture in my mind? Can you make that movie in your mind of some of the images and the ideas that are in a poem? The question here in the middle, the green question, we did this last time. Does this writing help me look at the world in a new way? Can you see how another poet had their poet's glasses on? And then last, a really important one that'll stick with you your whole life, I think. Does this writing give me a certain feeling or make me think or have a question? That's a really great place to be. If a poem inspires you to have new ideas, take notice of that, because that's something we can do in our own poems. It's a gift we can give someone else to give them feelings or thoughts or questions. I want to share with you the rest of a poem that we just started last time. It's Valentine for Earnest Man by Naomi Shihab Nye. You know, you can't order a poem like you order a taco, and the poem's hiding in the bottoms of our shoes. Well, there's a part we didn't get to yet, and I want you to listen and think, like, does this writing help you see something in a new way? Because this poem definitely helped me see skunks in a new way. Listen, and you'll see why. Okay, we'll read the whole poem, the part we saw before and a new part we hadn't gotten to yet. You can't order a poem like you order a taco. Walk up to the counter, say, "I'll take 2, and expect it to be handed back to you on a shiny plate. Still, I like your spirit. Anyone who says, 'Here's my address, write me a poem,' deserves something in reply. So I'll tell a secret instead. Poems hide in the bottoms of our shoes. They are sleeping. They are the shadows drifting across our ceilings the moment before we wake up. What we have to do is live in a way that lets us find them. Once I knew a man who gave his wife 2 skunks for a Valentine. He couldn't understand why she was crying. I thought they had such beautiful eyes. And he was serious. He was a serious man who lived in a serious way. Nothing was ugly just because the world said so. He really liked those skunks. So he reinvented them as Valentines, and they became beautiful, at least to him. And the poems that had been hiding in the eyes of skunks for centuries crawled out and curled up at his feet. Maybe if we reinvent whatever our lives give us, we find poems. Check your garage, the odd sock in your drawer, the person you almost like, but not quite, and let me know. There's a video, a really lovely video of the poet Naomi reading this poem in her own words and talking a little bit about what inspired her. I'll put a link and you can go check that out if you're interested, maybe right now or after the rest of this lesson. Cool. So I hope that poem gave you some things to think about, and I definitely recommend rereading it and discussing it more. But let's get on to our work today, because there's one more question I want you to consider. Can you make the movie in your mind? Are you looking at the world in a new way? Do you have thoughts, feelings, questions? And how about this? As you read poems in your life, think, does this poem have music? I don't necessarily mean like instrumental music that you're going to have headphones in on, but really kind of like instrumental music that you hear with headphones on. Let me show you what I'm talking about. This is a poem called Aquarium by Valerie Worth, and I actually kind of changed up her poem a little bit to take the music out on purpose. Listen, this is not the real version, okay? This is kind of my, doctored, messed up version. Aquarium by Valerie Worth. Goldfish flash, gold and silver scales. They flick and slip away under green weed, but round brown snails stick to the glass and stay. Okay. It was all right, but there's something missing. I kind of messed with Valerie's poem. There's a technique that she uses that really adds the music to the poem. Let me show you the real version that she published. And think, can you notice more of the music as I read this version? Aquarium by Valerie Worth. Goldfish, flash, gold and silver scales. They flick and slip away under green weed, but round brown snails stick to the glass and stay. Oh, something really stood out to me this time. The snails, they stick to the glass and stay. Do you notice what's different from the version I first showed you to the real published version? Take a moment and think, what's the difference between these two? You going like this? Yeah, it's like stretched out vertically, top down, instead of kind of smushed out left to right. That is something that you'll find adds a lot of music to poetry, is when on purpose the poet stretches their poem out up and down. Notice, stick to the glass and stay. Just a few words on each line. And friends, we call that line breaks. A line break is when a poet purposefully moves the next word in a poem down a line to add space and some music to the poem. Because notice, those first words, goldfish, flash, it gives me like this strong movie in my mind of the goldfish, and then their gold and silver scales, they flick and slip away. It's like we're moving faster, swimming through the little aquarium. But then we get down here to the round brown snails, and they stick to the glass and stay. Because they're not darting, are they? No, the snails are not darting. Have you ever seen that where they stick on the glass? You see their little suction cups. I don't know exactly how their body works, but they are slow movers. And the line breaks when on purpose. You're allowed to do it. I don't know if a teacher ever told you, you gotta have your sentence all on one line with a period. Not in poetry. You can make it as creative as you want. We want to make the music come out of your poetry, and we can accomplish that by stretching out our words and placing some importance and some flow with thought about where the words in the poem go. This is something I really encourage you all to try today. If you had your first poems and they looked more like this version, where it's kind of like sentences going left to right, experiment with some line breaks today. See if it doesn't add some music to your writing when you give a word its own spot, just on its own line, and stretch things out a little bit. I'm really curious of what you'll find when you play with line breaks today. So this is going to be the time where you get to writing. You want to get out your journal or your folder, wherever you're keeping your work this week. set a goal for yourself to write for about 15 minutes. I would totally recommend asking Alexa or whoever you have around, a watch, a little kitchen timer to set it for 15 minutes and really push yourself to work on your writing that whole time. During this 15 minutes, you could start a new poem if you're feeling inspired right now. You could go back to revise and change up a poem you started last time. Maybe write a new draft, a second draft that has line breaks in it. And also, you can continue to collect everyday objects from around your workspace and look at them with your poet's eyes and try and see them in a new way. And then, when you do that with one object, start the process over maybe and go for a whole new poem until you feel like you've gotten a good 15 minutes of work in. Good luck with this experimentation of your line breaks today, poets, and I'll see you next time. Bye!